welcome you all to the Friday webinar series that we have been doing now for nearly 6 years. We have done about 280, more than 280 webinars, as you know that. And we have also been very privileged to discuss contemporary issues, not only pertaining to India, but even global. We have recently done tariff war extensively. We have had the privilege of hosting 5 Nobel laureates. We have worked for the G20 when India was having the presidency. We worked on the new international economic order, on climate, on women empowerment. So we feel very privileged and honored that this platform is serving the very purpose for which it was created, dissemination of knowledge amongst each other, learning from each other. About a year back, if you recollect, we were worried about where the country is heading in terms of growth. Some papers had come, one specifically from the Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council, authored by Sanjeev Sanyal, where it was discussed that some states are having a free fall while others are doing a very good job. Even before that, there was a discussion of what is the reason that Punjab's position is declining so rapidly from number 1 in terms of per capita income in 2000 to number 14 by 2023. It is at that point of time when EGROW realized instead of only looking at London or Paris or trying to understand how growth takes place in Germany or France or UK, why not look within our own country? There could be great examples of success and great examples of challenges. If Punjab's recording that growth pattern where it is growing, but overall position is declining from 1 to 14, then there are other states which are doing exceedingly good. Maharashtra, Gujarat, Andhra, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka. Why not learn from each other? So we started a series of learning from each other where we share with each other what the plus points in our own state. You will be happy to know that the Prime Minister about a month and a half back at the Niti Aayog meeting also said if we want to have a Viksit Bharat, states have to come together and then we all will grow as a team. EGROW Foundation in the month of September is organizing a 3-day conference in Delhi where all states will be invited and 90 minutes granted for every state. We'll have some themes and we will learn from each other. Today's webinar is in that very context. While we have covered many states so far, we have covered Punjab, Haryana, we have covered Kerala, Karnataka, Maharashtra, Gujarat, Tamil Nadu, we have covered that. We are going to cover other states also during this series. The reach of this series is far and wide, and that's why this series we are now going to cover all the other states that we have not been able to cover so far. We'll be not able to cover in a single stretch because many Fridays have been booked for different subjects, but this series will continue and we will keep coming back to you. To take this forward, today we are discussing about Manipur, and Professor Bijoykumar, who has been with us earlier on this forum, kindly agreed to chair the session. So Professor Bijoykumar, he is a professor of economics at Manipur University. He has been teaching microeconomics, econometrics at PG level and database of the Indian economy at the PhD level. His areas of interest are development issues of northeastern region of India, including border trade, public finance and econometrics, of course. He is an active member of Northeastern Economic Association. I've met him there also. The Indian Econometrics Society and Indian Economic Association, again, where we met this January. And he has also been actively involved in the Manipur Economic Association. He has edited 3 books and written extensively on various aspects of development in the northeastern region of India. With this brief introduction of Professor Bijoykumar, I hand over the session to him for conducting the proceedings, introducing his panel, and taking the proceedings further. Professor Bijoykumar, over to you.
Thank you, Sharon, and also the team at EGROW. Thank you very much for giving us an opportunity of sharing our views on various aspects of the economy of Manipur. Now, before I hand over to my speakers, let me give a small introduction to the state of Manipur. The erstwhile Asiatic kingdom, Manipur, has come a long way in its march towards sustainable development, embracing Vaishnavism in early 18th century, the Anglo-Manipur War in 1891, merger into India in 1949, the attainment of statehood in 1972, and announcement of the Lokis policy and Agis policy have been major events in our journey. Its achievements, like other states, tell a story of challenges and the manner in which it has transcended them. Indeed, there are dimensions of development where Manipur lags behind, and there are also dimensions in which the rest of the country can learn from it. Like other northeastern states, it took time to adjust itself to the destabilizing effects of partition in post-independent India. The factors responsible for making the state economy not as vibrant as it used to be 7 decades back are many. Poor infrastructure, new institutions, rapidly changing economic environment, etc., were the main factors behind it. However, these challenges have been largely taken care of through concerted policies of the government and active participation of the people. Despite these various odds and challenges, the government of Manipur has been relentlessly putting efforts to accelerate the pace of economic development of the state to bring it at par with the rest of the country. Unlike the past, there is also a gradual realization on the part of policymakers that sustainable development should come from within, not from outside. The initiation of the Aegis policy has given us another opportunity for reimagining our development trajectory. The dramatic improvements in connectivity with the world dared us to re-examine and reimagine our comparative advantage to usher in sustainable development. We have a number of problems, and among them, at least I will flag 3 important problems. That is the choice of the appropriate development paradigm, number 1. Number 2, the issues of demographic challenges in this small state. And the third one is the issue of financing development for this state. Now, on these 3 broad topics, I have 3 very eminent scholars who would be talking on this, on these issues. And we have Professor Amar Yumnam. He served as the Vice Chancellor in charge before retiring in 2022. He got his PhD from the University of Bombay, and he has been an excellent scholar in France and Russia, and a senior Fulbright scholar at the University of Southern California, Los Angeles, during 2005-2006. He is currently a visiting professor at the Center for Economic and Social Studies, Hyderabad. Then we have Professor M. Hemanta Meitei. Hemanta Meitei, he specializes in population studies and health economics. He was trained from IITS Mumbai and also from the University of Hawaii also. He had a training there. Then currently he is the head of the Department of Economics. He has completed a number of projects, and his specialization is, as I said, in demography, reproductive health, and economic development in Northeast India. And the third speaker is Professor Damodar Nepram. He is currently, he was the director, Center for Study of Social Exclusion and Inclusive Policy, Manipur University. And before joining Manipur University, he was in the Churchandpur College. He specializes in public finance and development economics. And currently, he is also working on taxation and value-added tax. So with this short introduction of my speakers, I will request all the speakers to kindly give some this time. Each of you will be having around 20 minutes each. We have about 1.5 hours session, so 20 minutes will be given to every speaker. So first of all, I will request Professor Amar Yumnam to kindly make his presentation. So Professor Amar, kindly can continue.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yes,
Good.
yes.
Yeah.
I'm speaking from
Okay.
my mobile. Well, I'm very grateful to the three issues Professor Bijoy has raised in the beginning. And those are absolutely relevant and continuing challenges facing Manipur. And let me start with the last one, finance. Well, when it comes to finance, I have a reservation on what is called federalism in India. Federalism is, well, we are all coming together as states, but not as number of population or size of the land. But in India, federalism and how to function about federalism, all these are determined by demography and geography. And geography also, India has yet to have the concept of geography, which is now used in development. Number one. Number two, demography, the first one, population, which has raised. Again, we have a problem there. We are yet to understand, even though small, the diversity of the population. While I talk of diversity of the population, we have to be very, very careful about trying to appreciate that. Well, even though more than 2 years, absolute turbulence, but there has been no authority to understand what exactly are the different. We see it only a fight between two parties and killing each other, but we don't try to understand what are the social, geographic, and ethical and property rights dynamics prevailing. Well, Meitei, for example, have been private property rights system for long. And we have among the Nagas common property rights. Well, right now, while they have been using shifting cultivation and case system, well, they now find that cookies, I will use the term khongjai, not as cookies. Khongjais have been following the king's village chief as the king of the village, and he decides on everything. And they have so far not used a permanent settlement and a permanent cultivation on a particular plot of land. But socially, they have now discovered, I feel that socially they have now discovered that the practices which they have been following so far would not be able to sustain their society for long. It's a realization they have got. But at the policy level, when it comes to the policy, we have never tried to understand the difference in dynamics and what are the difference in dynamics which need difference in interventions. Because when there are so many social differentials, we cannot think of a single, well, policy, singular policy. We only look at federalism, we look only at a larger number of population, larger number of states, not in the real sense of how to accommodate the dynamics of a small demography, small land. We don't have a system. Both the houses of parliament are parliament for larger demography and larger geography. But when it comes to Manipur geography, well, we have valley, we have, well, slopes. And in geography, these are not same. When we try to undertake some economic activity in the valley, it is very different. And imagine recently what Manipur has experienced. Well, when there's a rainfall in the mountain areas, earlier it used to take, well, 3-4 days for that to come to the valley. Now, rainfall in the mountain areas will reach the valley within 1-2 hours. That is how heavy floods were the issue very recently, particularly in Imphal East. So what is important for us is that, well, the political economic issue of federalism, okay, that's one side. But on the other side, we need to appreciate the demographic differentials, the property rights differentials. Well, so far as immigration is concerned, that is something which I think the policy is trying to address that issue very hard. And then the next census, what would be something like they would like to identify who are the settlers, who are the immigrants like. And even though they are immigrants, we have to follow a different policy how to address it. The issue before us is how to resolve the various issues. Take Manipur on a differential part. Well, Manipur's strengths so far were education and sports. When sports, okay, we people have realized that the challenges to our life are much higher. So Manipur's increasing dominance in sports very recently is because people have already learned historically how to face the different challenges of development. But education again, what we are facing today is a decline in the quality of education in Manipur. That is to be very careful about, because other than these two, we don't have anything else. But when it comes to the recent flood, we have to look at the mountains. When we have flood in the valley, we have to look at the mountains. What is happening in the mountains? Well, for almost 3 years, poppy cultivations. And well, it is everybody knows poppy cultivation is being given protection by the, well, security forces who should rather be, well, securing our borders. They are giving protection to the poppy cultivation. And poppy cultivation is not a small area. The trees which have been cut and the poppy cultivation is going on. So what is important for Manipur today is we need a policy which is realistic. Policy I use in a singular term. Earlier, we used to take economy separate, education separate, social separate. Now is no longer so. We are increasingly now occupied on development intervention, which is multidimensional in a singular form. Earlier, different sectoral approaches were there. Now it should be one approach which combines all, and there should be morality and justice incorporated in that policy. So what Manipur needs today is a policy which incorporates all these development requirements, wherein we find morality and justice. Thank you, Zabizoy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Amar. Now, we will continue. Actually, may I request Professor Hemanta Meitei to kindly make his presentation. We will have a discussion at the end of the presentation.
Okay.
So Professor Hemanta, kindly make a presentation.
Yeah, thank you, Bijoy. And thank you all, the Professor Saran, for giving me this platform as sharing some of my thoughts. And I welcome and say hello to everybody here in this platform of this webinar. Let me share my presentation over here as a PowerPoint. This is I'm talking about the population of Manipur, as Oza Bijoy and Oza Amar have rightly pointed out. One of the important areas, key areas of the current situation in Manipur is the population dynamics, and this has taken a very important role in such a manner that the whole thing of the current issues of Manipur is boiling down to the destiny, as the term, as what we used to call as the demography is the destiny. So with this cue, now let me try to give you a brief idea about Manipur through a map. And this is I think I'm visible. This PowerPoint is visible.
Oh, yes.
We see you
This is,
very clear.
please look at the map of Manipur, and this is the physical topography of the state, and you can see all the green lines over here is the hill area, and in the middle of these valleys, in the middle of these the hills, now you can see a light pale area, which is what we call as the valley area, as Oza Amar has rightly pointed out. Now, if you look at the geographical location of the state, you can see that this state is bordering on the east with Myanmar, and the rest other things are the other states of India, namely Mizoram towards the west, Assam to the west, Mizoram to the south, north with Nagaland. And what we can see over here is that now the middle part is what we call as the valley area, and this constitutes around 10% of the total geographical land area of the state. So there is a big dichotomy of the land formation in the state, whereby what we can see is that majority of the people are staying down there in the valley area, and the rest, around 40% of the population, are in the hills. So this is the dichotomy, and now what we can see is that many a time in many discussions, we often say that this dichotomy is so deeply rooted, and in such a manner that this valley area is taken as similar to the plain areas of the north of the other parts of India. But to my understanding, as per the textbook knowledge of the NCERT, now you can see that the declaration of a place to be a hill or a mountain is at least around 500 meters above the sea level. And if you look at the valley area of Manipur, now you can see that this valley area is lying around 800 meters above the sea. So to my understanding is that this dichotomy should be completely demolished, and it should be, I mean, at the back of the idea that this state is a purely a hilly state. And now, along with that, what we find the pressure of demography or population is that out of the total land area of Manipur, some around 3% of the entire land area is under the wetlands, and these wetlands are in fact very much inside the valley area. So what is left with the people of Manipur, particularly in the valley, is that we are facing a very deep problem of demography, that this should be used as a place for agriculture, or the field for agriculture, as well as the settlements. And therefore the pressure on land in this small area is pretty high, and this, I mean, we try to often overlook this area, this part of the things. The state has, in fact, a multiple number of the communities, as Amar tried to point it out also. Now, as per 2011 census, there are 33 groups of the scheduled tribes in Manipur, and then on top of that, the other two major communities are the Muslims, which we call as in the local dialect as the Bangals, and then the Meiteis, which are the general class population, or mostly the Hindu population that we are having in the valley. So in this manner that we have a multiple number of the communities that we are residing in, and in my understanding that though the state is a small one, but the complexity of the problems that we are facing is not less than what the bigger canvas of India is facing, while is undergoing the processes of administration and developmental programs. Now, this is how we see the growth of the population in Manipur. If you look at this slide, you can see that we have the census right from 1881, and there we had around 2.2 lakh population in those days, and in 1891, in fact, we have the population but census, but nevertheless, due to the Anglo-Manipur War of 1891, all the records of the census were destroyed, and this is the estimate of the population, that 2.5 lakhs that is given. So at the time of the independence in 1951, the population of Manipur rose to 5.8 lakhs. And now what we have seen is that right from 1951, after the merging of Manipur to the Indian Dominion, we can see that the population has grown very fast up to 1981, where from 5.7 lakhs, it has already triple times, it went up to 14 lakhs. And then by 2011, we have crossed the 28.5 lakhs. And as per the technical group's population projection, now we can see that the current population of Manipur could be around 32 lakhs, and by 2036, it is expected that the projected population of Manipur could be around 3.5 lakhs. And this is how we have the population. One interesting part in this dynamics is that the sex ratio in the state is fairly good, and up to 1961, it is the females were, overpopulating than the males. But somehow that after that, there is no explicable reasons, but we find that the male dominance came. But in the last two censuses of 2001 and 2011, we have seen a much improvement in the sex ratio of the state. This is one area. The second part is that what I have tried to show to you is that demographically, now we can see that as a topographic divide, we have the hills and we have the valley. And in the hills, there are 5 districts up to 2011. And then there are 4 districts in the valley area now, which has been increased in both the hill and the valley. But so far, the data are available up to 2011. I'm using the data of 2011 up to 2011. Now we can see that in the hill at 2011, there are 12.2 lakh population, whereas in the valley, it is only 16.3. Now, what is important over here is that, as I have told you, the major communities in Manipur are the tribals, the Meiteis, and the Pangals. And the Meiteis and the Pangals are residing in the valley area. And most of the tribals are residing in Senapati, in the hill area. And in the recent times, what we can see is that there are certain pockets of the districts which are experiencing very high level of growth. And particularly, you can see from 2001 to 2011, we can see that in Senapati there is a massive change of the population, and which, I mean, many people are very skeptical. And this was also similar kind of the things were also observed during 1991 to 2001 in Chandel district. Now, these were some of the, I mean, the contentions that people are residing, are having in the state. Now, what you can see is that over time, the valley area is increasing the population, and so also in the hills, but the rate of increase in the valley is much, much slower than the increase in the population in the hill. It's not that they cannot increase the population, but the pace and the growth rate of the population is between the hill and valley quite different. And what many people are of the view is that there should be some kind of the parity. And there also what we can also see is that in the two of the districts, such as Tamenglong and Ukhrul, the growth is somewhat more stable, and it's somewhat steadily that they are increasing, and the rest of the things are, I mean, it's very unpredictable kind of the things that it is happening. Sorry. Now, this is the share of the population in both the hill and the valley area. Now you can see that in 1951, the share of the hill population was 1/3, and now that level was maintained up to 1991, but in the post 2000, or in the millennium, in the coming of this millennium, now the share has changed much faster, and in the hill it has risen up to 42, nearly 43% in 2011, and compared to the valley area. Now, this could be one of the things that which we are feeling, that the rapid increase in the population in the hill is, I mean, beyond our explanation. Let us see some of the decadal growths. Now, I have given you the color coding. You can see that in the initial part of 1950, 51, 61, 71, and even 1971, 81, the growth rate in the hill, I mean, was almost at par with the valley area, say up to 1961, 71. But from 1971, 81, now you can see that the valley areas are facing a consistent decline in the growth rate of the population, whereas in the hill, the growth rate is pretty high. Now you can see the orange color marking that in few of the districts in the hill, that growth rate was unprecedentedly very high in these few periods. So this is for our common understanding. Now let us try to look at some of the contentious areas, not only the population, but what you can see over here is the number of inhabited villages in the hill and the valley area. Now, in the hills, now you can see that over time, the number of the pockets or the villages or inhabited areas has been consistently increased, whereas in the valley area, it has been consistently declining. Whereas if you look at the density of the population in the hill, it is still 61, whereas in the valley, it has risen up to 780 persons per square kilometer. Now, this also gives some clue that, I mean, how the population pressure is felt in the valley area vis-a-vis with the hill districts. I have tried over here to show you how demographically that the population in Manipur are having this way. Since OBC is not available in the census data, I don't have the option to put it. But otherwise, if you looked at over here, now you can see that the general population, mostly the Meiteis and the Meitei Pangals constitute around 66% in 1951. It has gone down to 55.7, whereas the STs have also increased over time, and now in 2011 it has gone up to 41%, whereas the scheduled caste in Manipur is very negligible. Now it has grown up to 3.4% in 2011. Now this is the measured part of the composition of the population in Manipur. If you look at in terms of the religion, the valley people are mostly Hindu believers and Muslims, in fact, whereas in the hills, in this 20th century, because of the some Christian, and the people that they have come forward for converting them, and therefore most of the people in the hill have already converted to Christianity. Now, if you look at over here, if you see in terms of the percentage in the hill districts like Senapati, Tamenglong, Chorasanpur, Ukhrul, Chandel, now you can see that the Christians dominate over here about 90%. Or about 90%, whereas the Hindus basically in the valley are residing. So it's there, Muslims are also in the valley area. And lastly, the other type of the religion, which is the traditional religion that the Meitei people are preserving, and now this slowly from Hinduism, now many of the people have converted into the traditional beliefs, and this is what you can see over here. And in this manner, in terms of the religion also, we have the dichotomy. Now, see, if you look at the hill and the valley dichotomy, you see that Hindus in the valley are almost 68%, whereas in Christians in the hill constitute around say the 92%, whereas Muslims in the valley are 14%. Now, what you can see over here is that if most of the tribals are Christians, then the Christians or tribals basically in the valley area is only around 4%. And now here I have to clarify one more thing also, that among the Meiteis also there are people who are having faith in Christianity. So they are following the Christianity over here also in 3.6, not the tribals only. So with these few things, now I like to give you a brief idea about the age transition in Manipur. Now we have from the economic demographic point of view, we have three groups of the people, as 0 to 14, which we call as the children or the young population, and the 60+ population. These are the aged population, and in between is the working age population. Now we can see over here in 1991, the young population was around 35%, whereas the working age population constituted around 70%. The aged population was 6%. If it comes down to 2011 census, we can say that the young population has declined over here from 35 to 30%, whereas the aged population rose from 6% to 7%. And here comes this the working age population to 63%. So this is how the age transition is taking place. In different districts are also there, but for Manipur as such that we can see the transition happening. Now this could be because of the factor of the declining fertility and the increasing longevity of the people over here. Now, we can see the dependency ratio over time over here. Now you can see the young dependency in 1991 was 51%, whereas old dependency was 8.7%. If we go down to 2011, this scenario changes from 50.6, now it has gone down to 48.2 in 2011, whereas all age dependency has risen substantially from 8.7 to 11.2%. This is one thing. And one more thing that which I would like to convey to you is that by 2036, as per the technical group's projection, you can see that all age dependency ratio in 2036 could be around 22.7. Now this 2036, though it seems, some 15, 20, nearly 15 years from now, but nevertheless, it is it's not very long time that we have to achieve this. So we have to make proper arrangements for taking care of the aged people, and at the same time, what we can see, though I have not put over here, the young dependency also will be declining very fast. In this history we have taken care of. Now with this, what I have to convey to the August gathering is that in this audience is that the potential support ratio, which we have to say is the number of workers per one older person. Now this will be going down from 12 in 1991 to 9 in 2011. So by the time when it comes down to 2036, probably it may be around 7 or 8. And so it's going to happen. It's sure going to happen. It's a matter of time on that we are going to face in this regard. Now let me come towards the dynamics of population. We can see that the birth rate, this is the number of births per 1,000 population. In Manipur, it has been declining from 33.3 in 1971. It has gone down to 13.3. The latest one of the 2025 publication of the SRS, we can see that this is the birth rate. Whereas in Indian context, if we have to compare it now, we can see that right from 1971 up to 2022, Manipur is now having the lower birth rate compared to the Indian statistics on Earth. Now let us see from the point of the number of the total fertility rate. Now the meaning of the total fertility rate is the number of the births that a woman would be giving in her reproductive lifetime, given that she follows a certain schedule of fertility. Now, if you look at Anaphysis 2, which was conducted in 1998-99, now we can see that the fertility rate per woman was 3, and by 2019-20 in Manipur and Anaphysis 5, we have already gone down to 2.17, and which is, I'm putting over here 2.2, which is slightly above the replacement level fertility. So this is how we can see that, the TFR in Manipur is now declining over time, and we are very soon ready, going to achieve the replacement level. Now, if you come down to different communities, say, we often say that Muslims and the Christians are having the higher fertility rate, no doubt. It is there, but if you look across the line, that Christians were also facing a declining fertility from 3.7 in Anaphysis 3, that is 2005-6, to 2.9 in 2019-20. Now, in case of the Hindus, now you see that we have already achieved the replacement fertility level, and other, which is also part of the Meitei. Now you can see that this also has gone down to below replacement level fertility. Even though people used to blame Muslims for higher fertility in Manipur, now you can see that the TFR among the Muslims is also 2.3, which is not very far away from the replacement level fertility. By next few years, probably they also would be getting at least at the replacement level sooner. So this is the same thing. Scheduled tribes are similar to the Christians. OBC almost similar to the other group and the Hindu groups. Now this is what we can see over here. This is 1.7, and scheduled castes are almost at the TFR of 2. Now, scheduled caste people, even though they used to be classified themselves as scheduled caste, but to be very precisely speaking, that these are the people belonging to the Meitei group, Meitei community. So, I mean, it's not very surprising that they are having the less number of children. This also is, I mean, comparatively lower compared to the India level, and it has been now. If you look at from the angle of the mortality side, now this is the life expectancy that we are able to see from the technical group's projection. It's not for Manipur as such, but they are giving for the northeastern states as such, excluding Assam. So Manipur is a very much part of this calculation, and thereby what we can observe that the life expectancy among the male in 2011-15 was 70.5, whereas for females it is almost 74. And by now, it could be that females are having 72 and the male are having almost 76 years. And in 2031-35, that we can see that the life expectancy will be fairly high, and this must be at par with the current condition. Now, one of the fundamental indicators of demography is the infant mortality rate. Now, if you look at the infant mortality rate in Manipur's context, whereby the SRS has been giving the estimates, we can see that the infant mortality rate in Manipur at this current point of the time is very, very low. It's around 6 compared to around 25 in India. So in that case, Manipur's infant mortality is much better than the all India level. Even this is much better than many of the states, northeastern states of India. This is the differential. I'll skip this part. Now let me come to the contraceptive use in Manipur according to the National Family Health Survey round number 5 in 1920. Now you see that a good number of the contraceptive prevalence is available over Manipur. It's around 61.3 for all the people, and this is among the women who is 15 to 49. And then the modern method, the very peculiar thing in Manipur's context in contraceptive use is that the modern method use is very small, it's around 18%, whereas traditional method is 43.1. And among the modern method, what we could observe over here is that unlike many other places of India, we don't rely too much on the terminal method. Whereas in the context of India, more than half or almost 2/3 of the modern method is from the terminal method or sterilization. But in Manipur's context, you look at all these districts, you can see that it's a very small amount of the people are relying on the terminal methods. However, despite all these things, we also can observe that there is still scope for increasing the use of the family planning methods in Manipur. There you can see the last column that unmet need for contraception is still very high in the context of Manipur, 12.2%. Now this is, I mean, arguably, it's a very high level of the unmet need for contraception. And this is the differential use, and not much of the difference that I can see. And now here I give you some of the summary findings from the National Family Health Survey 5 on the demographic indicators. Now you can see that in Manipur, 80% of the births are institutional. But at the same time, the worrying factor is that out of all these births, 1/4 of them are under the cesarean section. Now, WHO guidelines says that it should be up to only 15% of the births. But in the context of Manipur, it's very high. Some of the districts, like valley districts, mainly Imphal West, this Bishnupur, and then Imphal East, and even Thawal. Now they are having lots of the people, women going for the cesarean section. Now this is a major concern from health point of view. From health point of view, another indicator that which we find here is that a lot of the women are facing anemia. Anemia is a lack of iron in the blood, and which is now giving a lot of trouble to the of the women's bodies. Now, particularly for oxygen diffusion inside the body. Now, same thing is also happening among the children under age 6 to 59. Sorry for 69. It should be 6 to 59. Here, 43% of the children are facing the anemia among children also. And in terms of the weight for age, below age 5, almost 13% of the children in Manipur are facing some kind of the insufficiency or unbalanced diet in the growth of in their young infancy period. Now, this is a kind of the challenge which will be targeting towards the development of human capital in the long run. It's not for the sake of the current children, but rather it is in the long run that is very, very important. Now, this should be addressed properly. Now, let me also share with you one indicator which is not in fact used by many of the demographers, but what I'm trying to tell you is that how many people are still remaining single among the female in 2011 census. Now you can see that in India by age 25 to 29, almost 9% are still remaining single. That means 91% are already got married. Now, the same thing if we compare in Manipur, it is 36% in by age 25 to 29. 36% of the females or women in Manipur are still remaining single, not getting married. And by age 30 to 34, almost all women in India got married, but in Manipur's context, it is 20%. So many people are not getting married in Manipur's context, and this, I think, requires some kind of the attention by the people. Now, this will change it. So now let me come to the last dynamic of the migration, which though is very important. Now, what you can see is that in Manipur, the migration, basically in migration and the immigration from foreign, now it's very, very small. Even in 2011, only 22,700 or 800 people are coming to Manipur compared to 75,751 people are migrating away from Manipur. So our migration is far, a phenomenon in Manipur compared to the incoming of the people. So many people over here, we used to have some kind of the fear that, and even Manipur also adopted the inner line permit and all those things. But nevertheless, as per the data, beyond data, it could happen. But by the data, what it captures is that the number of the migrants in Manipur is very, very small. Now, way forward, now you can see that the contraceptive use rate in Manipur is pretty high. At the same time, unmet need for family planning or contraceptive also is very, very high, relatively is very high. And the proportion remaining single also is very, very high. And at the same time, we can also still find that there are cases that we have the wanted fertility and unwanted fertility. Now, this, if you look at over here, then totally wanted fertility is much lower than the actual fertility rate. Now, in that case, now what I would like to conclude is that Manipur is likely to experience a faster decline in fertility if the current indicators are true. And this, along with aging, will push a shrinking population in the long run. And the fourth point is that the society in both the valley and the hill have to be accommodative to find a common goal and devise a common strategy to deal with the decline in population. And this is likely to happen very shortly. And lastly, there should be some proper policy to devise and to implement for getting the population stabilized and keep that momentum of stabilization in the long run. So in some sense, what we have, I have shown you over here is that the fertility level, okay, but for some groups, for some community is falling below the replacement level, whereas for some communities it's above the one. But all these have already shown us the path that fertility decline is happening in Manipur and is going to happen in the years to come also. Therefore, we need to see a common goal for the whole society. With this, I want to end my presentation. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Professor Hemanta, for the thought-provoking presentation. Again, we will have a discussion after Professor Damodar makes his presentation. So, Damodar.
Yes, sir.
So kindly continue. No, actually,
Okay. Am I audible?
yeah, audible. Please.
Okay.
Yeah.
So thank you, Professor Bijoykumar Singh and Professor Charan Singh for giving me this opportunity to speak a little bit on the economy of Manipur. Since I am in public finance, I would like to focus more on taxation, expenditure, and growth. You know, all the northeastern states are very similar. To some extent, of course, Assam is a little different because of its size. Most of them are really, population is very less, and you know their taxes didn't give much revenue. But if you look at the budgets over the last 20-30 years, what we are seeing is that their performance is extremely good. If you look into the GDP, this national net state domestic product, they are experiencing growth above 10% almost every year. Now, initially at one time, they used to depend on the central transfers for about 90% of their expenditure. But now this has tremendously been reduced. For example, Manipur, they depend on the central transfers, you know, very less. One of the reasons for this, of course, with particular reference to Manipur, is that the state has been experiencing higher economic growth, generating more tax revenue. There has been higher central tax transfers. And one more important thing is that with the coming of goods and services tax in the country since 2017, all the northeastern states and even all the eastern part of the country, including Manipur, are witnessing tremendously high tax revenue. This is a very peculiar feature. Almost all the entire eastern part of India, they are witnessing extremely high growth in their tax revenue. So it makes their economy more, much in a better position. If you look, the reasons why is that in the earlier tax system, what we see is that in sales tax, what is the thing is that we have a tax called central sales tax. what is that? In case of interstate sales of goods and services, the central sales tax will be levied. Now, there are two kinds of states involved in interstate sales. For example, we import goods, let's say from Gujarat. Now, Gujarat will be called state of origin, and Manipur will be called state of destination. What was happening is that in the earlier this sales tax, that is a central sales tax, what was witnessing is that you levy tax from the state of destination, but you give the money to the state of origin. Therefore, the producing states were getting a lot of revenue. Of course, it is quite unjust, and in GST, this will be removed. The main reason why they introduced this kind of sales tax was that to trace the movement of goods from one state to another state. But eventually what was happening is that the tax rate was 1%, which gradually rose to 4%. And therefore these tax states were getting a lot of revenue. But with the coming of GST, what is happening is that this CST has been absorbed, subsumed in GST. Now, we have a tax called IGST, called Integrated Goods and Services Tax. Now, in goods and services tax, what is happening is that the tax collected from state of destination will be shared between the central government and the state of destination at a rate of 50-50. Now, almost all the northeastern states, not only the northeastern states, we have states like UP, Bihar, West Bengal. These are all consuming states, whereas states like Maharashtra, Gujarat, Karnataka, these are producing states. Now, what was happening? All the tax revenue they were collecting from CST, now we are getting it back to us. Therefore, there has been a tremendous growth in tax revenue of almost all the entire eastern states of the country. Now, if you look at the tax state domestic product ratio, what was happening is that the entire northeastern states, around 2% of the taxes collected were from own taxes. But now what is happening is that 4%, 5% of our state domestic product tax ratio has been around like that. So we see a tremendous growth in our own tax revenue. Actually, the eastern part of India, where laggard states, they were collecting less revenue. Likewise, that was the belief. But now there's a change. There has been a uniformity nowadays in the tax ratio. If you look at the tax ratios, of course, states like Karnataka, they collect 8% of the state income as taxes. Gujarat, Maharashtra, they collect around 7%, 8% of the state income as taxes. But what is happening is that after GST, the eastern part, the northeastern states, they are also collecting much higher tax revenues that we see. So what is happening is that if you look state-wise, some states like Arunachal Pradesh, they are witnessing the highest growth in tax collections. Everyone is asking why Arunachal is witnessing very high tax growth rate. So this is an area that we should be looking at, because tax compliance is definitely higher in Arunachal Pradesh. Government is given a lot of effort in collecting taxes. Now, if states like Manipur, states like Assam give more tax effort in collecting taxes, definitely I think northern states will be collecting more revenue. So with the economy picking up, I think our tax revenue will go up, and the main focus of our government in the near future should be on how to spend our money. We have been spending our money on education, healthcare, infrastructure. Now we should prioritize our expenditure. For example, if you look at the school education in the valley, almost all the entire population is sending their children to private schools. We don't know the reason why. I think definitely performance must be better. Therefore, we should change our priority. We should be focusing more on other sectors. Now, sorry, what I feel is that the northern states are almost uniform in almost every respect. And what we need is now a northeastern economic model. Where should we put our money and how can we achieve the highest level of growth? Now, I feel that if we put our money, maximum amount of money in roads, I think we will be witnessing the highest growth rate among the states. I'll give you some example. If you look, if you visit Manipur, now we have this look-east policy, and we have this More Imphal highway that has been constructed wonderfully. Now, on both sides of the road, we see a number of shops coming up, a number of hotels, a number of restaurants coming up, and they're giving lots of employment. So we can see from our own eyes. Now, if you if you go to Assam, you see that in Kasar area, road investment on roads are giving very good results. Now, if you ask anybody in Guwahati, they say that, we are seeing a lot of highways, we are seeing a lot of roads, and the result has been extremely good. So I think we should be focusing on a kind of Northeast economic development model. And I feel that roads is a particular area that we should be giving more importance. Thank you, sir. I conclude.
Thank you, Professor Damodar. Now, actually, we expect some questions from the audience, from the participants. So Sharan, so kindly, yeah. There's one question from Sharan.
Yeah, I just want, firstly, of course, a fascinating presentation. I was very impressed. But then I just had one question on the demographic. I found the out-migration really very strong from Manipur. And my question was a simple question. Where is the out-migration happening to? In India? Or is it happening towards other parts of the world? That is something which I thought would help us in understanding the out-migration pattern, please. Thank you.
Can I reply?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for the question, Professor. Actually, the migration data collected in the census basically is from the out-migrants are basically within the country only. So all this, latest one, that is 75,000 people are moving in the different parts of the country. And most of the destinations are mainly Delhi and the big metros. These are some of the areas that we find the local people are going towards the other part of the country. Mainly metros that they are going.
And this is basically for education purposes or jobs?
Yeah, many of them are going for education purpose. And of course, people return over there and then they work further to these destination areas also.
One quick question, I'm sorry to be asking that, but when you say that the female marriage pattern or female stay single for longer years than the all India average, what could be the reason for that? Is it because education, or is it any other reason that sociology, some reasons that female tend to stay single longer?
Yeah, thank you for the question once again. Now, the major reason to my understanding is because of the fact that people want to have a stable income, and after that they want to build up their families, their houses, and their families, and therefore they used to postpone the marriage. And one more thing that which I would like to share is that basically now, irrespective of the women being educated or not educated, that has become a kind of the common society's norm that the people used to get married once they themselves have the enough resources to build up their families. That is, I think, the reason for getting delayed marriage in Manipur.
So would that mean that the female labor force participation is much higher in Manipur than the rest of India?
It's not much higher, but of course, in our case, it is still a very good amount of the females relatively are participating in the jobs.
So what would be
It's
the
not
female labor
necessarily.
force?
Yeah,
What would be the,
excuse me.
what would be the female labor force participation rate in Manipur?
I don't have the correct statistics, but it is well above 35, 36% somewhere. Then last PLFS, I think it was that we find it.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, any more questions? Any more queries?
There is a question in the chat box which I thought was
Yeah, just open up.
Yeah, this is Satyam. Yeah. So that one question is that which part of the young Manipuri people prefer to migrate for studies and employment? And I have given the answer that they are mostly going to the big cities. This is other thing. After class 12 for higher studies, yes. Now the environment in Manipur is not good. The school level education up to 12th standard in Manipur is quite competitive. But after that, now the college level education is not, in my understanding, my feeling is that it's not so good. So people look for what, this is one part. The other aspect is that Manipur is a strife, corn and a strife, most often that people used to face a strife. So therefore, to avoid all these things, people used to go out. It's not that they have enough income to do it, but for sake of the education that people are moving away from Manipur after 12th class. This is a fact. Mostly in Delhi or North India or South India. Many people are in Delhi, North India as such that I do not see, but many people used to prefer South India. Job or financial security. This could be what? How far the communal conflict of Manipur affecting the economy of the state. Now this, I don't have the exact answer to this question, but if you look at the spending, the ability to spend or consumers' demand as such, now we have witnessed that there has been a drastic decline in the expenditure, consumer expenditure in Manipur. And the fact is that in many of the shops in Imphal area, now they have shut down and they have left Manipur. That is the practical reality that we are facing over here. Isn't it the expenditure on education a better sign for development index than building roads for economy? Well, this is a very contentious. I think Professor Damodar can help it out.
Yeah.
But I mean, both are important because in some sense, education is for creating human capital, while the development for roads and other things without infrastructure, now the pace of the development will be hampered quite a lot. Professor Damodar can supplement to this.
Yeah, education is very important, but what we see in reality is that in northeastern states, people are sending their children to private schools. Unlike in Kerala, for example, government schools are very popular. But in northeastern states, people are sending their children to Catholic schools and other private schools. That is their own choice. Maybe they are doing so for various reasons. Therefore, what I feel is that we should, yes, should keep on investing in education, but the priorities should change. And I feel illiteracy rate in northeastern India is very high. But what is lacking is job creation. We should maybe be prioritizing on skill enhancement. That is very important. At the same time, I feel construction of highways and roads create more jobs. I think that is very important nowadays because education is already a success in Northeastern India, and therefore we should be focusing on job creation. That is what I feel.
Yeah. Good Professor Amar will have something on this. The, Professor Amar.
Yeah, I would like to
Yeah.
comment to the migrants, and not coming back to Manipur. What is happening nowadays is that any child who goes outside Manipur, I'm talking about even class 1 to 11 students, who has gone out of Manipur, they don't want to come back to Manipur. So those who can afford, everybody is sending out their children to outside Manipur for children, and they will not come back. And it includes now even Indonesia, Philippines, Southeast Asian countries. Forget US, UK, that is a difficult thing, but it includes Southeast Asian countries. Myanmar is not included, but you will find Manipuri children going to Thailand, going to Indonesia, going to Philippines, and they will not come back. So those who can afford, somehow they're ensuring education of their children and they will not come back. But at home, what is happening is that a phenomenon which was not there earlier in Manipur, those who can afford children, somehow education of their children, they are getting better off. They're getting better off. And those who cannot afford, because the decline in the quality, private schools difficult, local schools not working, not delivering the teaching which we like. So what happens is that a phenomenon which was not there in Manipur earlier, the inequality, widening inequality across family, and that phenomenon is now a prevailing one in Manipur, is now happening. And that is where we need to be very careful. And that is exactly where, well, we had a World Bank team. I was the only one from India as a member of the team. Three Britishers, one Australian, Meitei. We studied for 4 years the infrastructure and other requirements of Manipur. Now, it's not just a question of infrastructure these days. If we are talking about infrastructure, we must also talk about where the schools are to be located. And where the schools are located, how do we ensure that the children get the education they deserve? But what is happening right now is that many places, well, even though the government schools are there, is as good as schools are not there. Well, we all taught, we had our education from the local schools, but who is now going to the local school? The lower of those who are poorer, the poorer people go to the local school. Those who can afford in Manipur, they will go to the private school, and those who can still afford higher, they will go outside Manipur, they will not come back. And that is the phenomenon happening. That's the phenomenon happening. And that serves two things. One, inequality is enhanced. Number two, the social capability of Manipur gets compromised. Manipur's social capability 10 years is not that leaven today. Is not that leaven today. So what is happening today is that even a small group can create lots of noise and can stop everybody from speaking out. But this kind of a phenomenon was not there earlier because everybody had the capability to speak out. Now, the poor people who do not have even the capability to go to the private school and even local school, very difficult. When that group gets dominated, well, a few groups, a few persons can exactly manipulate what happens in the society. That is what is happening in Manipur today. And that is one of the worst things happening because of the out migration. Those who have gone outside Manipur, those who have settled, even for sports, those who are settling outside Manipur, they are much better off than who are in Manipur. And those, the same level of education outside Manipur, they are much better off than those who are in Manipur. So the kind of thing which was not there socially, the lack of inequality is very much widened, and that leads to the well-being of the student, happiness of the people reduce. So Manipur is not as happy as it was 10 years back.
Actually, thank you, Mr. Amar, for the comments. We would have loved to continue, but because of the shortage of time, time is almost up, so we have to wind up. But before winding up this thing, let me, there's some points. Professor Amar has raised very important points about the nature of federalism is unfolding actually in the region now, and then about the concept of geography. And again, Professor Amar has actually highlighted some of the very disturbing facets in the which are actually developing in our society. Like the inequality, the issue of inequality, then the issue of people not being allowed to speak out. All those things are there, and of course that also is one of the reasons for having this heavy flow out migration. Because all the time we have been thinking that it is basically the problem of in-migration, but facts show otherwise. We have a large number of out migrants, which is far above the number of in-migrants. So his statistics. And regarding the demographic things, of course, we are having a number of problems, and in this thing, in this setup, the important thing is that the different communities are having, very differential experiences. So that has to be taken care of, because this decline in total fertility rate, this seems to be again, confined to some communities only, and some communities are actually growing quite fast. So basically, when we try to influence these decisions of the families, we have to look at their reproductive agencies, so that all the stakeholders, all the people, they can exercise their reproductive rights freely, so that they can have the desired actually family size as they want to. And of course, I have a feeling that many of the statistics should be better examined by breaking down inter-community, not just like Manipur, but we have to look at every statistics for these Meitei, then these SCs, STs. That will give a better idea on the perspective of the possible policy measures. And finally, the presentation of Professor Damodar it is very clear that the revenue receipts of these states, in particularly in northern states, have been growing quite fast also, even though it is not to the desired level. But equally important is the expenditure part, and I actually studies after studies are showing that our expenditures are very inefficient. So that has to be seriously taken care of, because even if we have a huge amount of resources, maybe from the tax revenue or from the transfer from the center, if the money is not properly spent, as you observe now, that is not going to help us a lot. So we have to be very careful about this expenditure pattern. And of course, now we have to think about, of course, we cannot spend actually on every item, on every issue, every aspect that we want to. So there has to be a question of prioritization. So we have to prioritize the various, actually the areas for our activities. And this is what I actually have to make a quick recap of whatever we have discussed. Of course, as I said earlier, we have tried to cover only a few aspects of the economy of Manipur, and hopefully we will get another opportunity of discussing the missing points. And once again, I would like to thank, first of all, the Charan Singh and the EGROW's body for giving us this opportunity of sharing our views, our thoughts on the various aspects of economic Manipur. And I also would like to thank my colleagues, Professor Amar Yumnam, and Professor Hemanta Meitei, and Professor Damodar, who gracefully actually agreed to be part of this discussion and share their views. And I would like to thank the participants in this actually webinar also for giving a patient hearing to the presentations. And of course, we always have this problem of shortage of time. And so we hope, in the near future, again, we will have the opportunity of discussing or expressing our views better, So to you, Charan, please, go. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. I think this was very interesting. One hand has been up for a long time. If you permit me, Professor Bijoy, can I just ask this gentleman, Ike? What I can see here is only the word Ike, I-K-E. Would you want to ask your question?
Because sorry. Actually,
yeah. If you would like to ask a question, your hand has been up for a very long time.
Oh, sorry, I missed
but
that.
I see Ike is not responding. Hello. Up here, you see this hand is raised. Yeah, do you want to ask a question, please? Do you have a question? Okay, maybe there's no question, and that I want to thank you, Professor Bijoy, for agreeing, and I want to really thank your team, all the three of them who have spoken to us at length and shared this information with us. Thank you so much. Such part of the country, and there is so little that we know of each other. And today's presentation has brought out so beautifully the things that are happening in Northeast and Manipur, and we people in India are still lost about it and do not know the details. So it's very sad. And this interaction today, and I'm sure we are going to do with all the Northeast states in the days to come, is so enriching. While you were talking, I was getting messages from others also about the out-migration, and I'm sure that that's going to get covered in days to come. Also very impressed with what you summarized, You know that I come from North India and I also come from Punjab. And Punjab had a very disturbing history in 80s. You know that. And that impacted our growth very, very badly. And one of the reasons I think that Punjab has lost out is because there was so much of unrest there. So, as economist, I'm sure you and your team, if permitted and if you have time, would have done some assessment of anything that disturbs growth, and that has to be addressed as quickly as possible. But your presentations, three of you, and Professor Bijoy, your summary and overall guidance, priceless. People like us who are sitting far away, depending only on the TV, hardly come to know the ground reality. And your discussion has been so enriching. We are going to continue with this discussion on states, but next week we are having a discussion on the monetary policy. You know that the Reserve Bank has come out with massive cuts in interest rates, very, very interesting. And the governor, just 3 days back, has made an announcement that there can be more cuts and sufficient cuts and significant cuts, keeping in mind the growth story. So next week on a Friday, we are going to discuss this very story on the monetary policy. I'm going to request each one of you to kindly join. Have a great weekend. And then I look forward to having you join us next week, almost the same time, to discuss the monetary policy. Once again, thanks to the participants, thanks to Professor Bijoy, thanks to Professor Amar, Professor Hemanta, and Damodar for being with us and enlightening us. Thank you. Have a great,
Thank you.
great
Thank you.
week.
Yeah, thank you.
Sat Sri Akal.